What's up guys, Houndish here, and today we're jumping in with some Destiny 2 news, and we've got some updates for the game right now, new Solstice of Heroes info, and a couple of Beyond Light segments in the video. So we're going to round up some glitches, farms, and updates for Solstice this year. Some cheeky extra progress to be made on the armor at the moment, but Bungie also clarified their plans for 2019 Solstice Ornaments and more. So we'll touch on all of that, but we also have some currency updates for Beyond Light, as well as some fixes that we'll see in November, and feedback about future content as well as Destiny Content Vault stuff that Bungie are pushing to the team. So there is a bit of a mixed bag inside of this video guys, but if you enjoy it, as always, a rating down below very much helps me out. And now, let's get into it. Before we talk about Solstice stuff for this year, or any Beyond Light things, let's mention the new interference mission dialogue for this week. So we still haven't seen any of the kind of secret areas inside of the interference mission, and it does appear that we're going to get a couple a bit further down the road this season. But as always, for this week, we have the unlock quest, so nightmare hunts are probably the fastest way to pick up Umbral Traces this week. And then for the mission dialogue with Eris, this week she discusses our relationship with our morals and more, so spoiler alert, but if you want to check out the mission dialogue, here it is.
This is a turn for action born out of supreme conviction, single-minded dedication, almost zealotry, driving extreme behavior. Great atrocities can be couched in valor, it suggests. Oh, wait. Not can be. Will be. Future tense. Interesting.
It kind of appears that Eris is a bit paranoid. Perhaps the Vanguard are watching her every move right now. Of course, she knows that many of the things she wants to do are controversial, but also it would appear that the darkness is challenging us once again in what we would call victory, highlighting that our perceived victories often classify as atrocities. And of course, there is the lore card that goes alongside this. So as always, some interesting dialogue in the mission this week. And otherwise, we're going to have to wait and see when that evacuation quest kind of kicks off with any kind of next major story beats for the season. Moving on to Solstice of Heroes though, of course the event is back, and we've got a few updates and things to clarify, so something which may be worth trying to take advantage of initially is some kind of doubled progress on secondary sets of Solstice Armor. So players have reported that if you complete the blue renewed set on one character, it's possible to go to a different character and see bigger progress jumps on a second blue set, although it is sometimes inconsistent, but DMG did say that this shouldn't be a thing as far as they know, so he's going to catch up with the team in the morning to see what's going on. From reports, it doesn't appear to be a kind of server delay or anything like that, so since this doesn't appear intentional, I would totally try and take advantage of it in the next couple of days if it's working for you, in case Bungie managed to fix it. We do have other subjects of interest and feedback though. Bungie Help also tweeted that we're currently investigating an issue where Solstice Weekly and repeatable bounties do not give bright dust as intended. And so at the moment they aren't actually dropping the bright dust they should be, which hopefully is something that we'll get a fix for pretty soon, especially with the cost of the ornaments and stuff being purchased this event. It would at least be useful to farm out a bit of additional bright dust while turning in bounties. Here though, we get a few additional insights and bits of clarification about upgrades for Solstice Armor this year. And so Cosmo said initially that he made an error in the TWAB last week, and he points out that you don't need to complete the final 5 listed objectives to upgrade from Majestic to Magnificent Armor. Those final objectives are only to unlock the glows on the Magnificent set. Now you do need to upgrade from the Majestic to Magnificent set during Solstice of Heroes, but you can continue to do the final objectives on the Magnificent set to unlock the glows even after the event ends. So he clarified again that you need to upgrade from the Majestic set to the Magnificent set and then complete the final list of challenges to enable the white glows. But the elemental glows are on a set of universal ornaments that can be purchased once you unlock the Majestic set and don't require the white glow. And so basically what he's saying is that when we get to the legendary set, once we complete the first list of objectives on the legendary set, we'll become the Magnificent set, but the final list of 5 objectives required for the glows will be an additional requirement on the Magnificent set itself. But he also clarified that you don't need to get a Magnificent set in order to pick up the universal ornaments. He also pointed out that the elemental glows are universal ornaments that can be applied to any 2.0 pieces of armor, so that's how it's going to work moving into the future. And funnily enough, for some of the folks that have been asking about universal ornaments for 2019 sets, Bungie actually gave a response. So somebody said, it's time to be extremely clear about last year's glows. And Cosmo replied, we concentrated on improving the armor and ornament experience for the current event. and for now we have no plans to return to make changes to the old armor at this time. And so they've essentially clarified that they don't plan on updating the old armor to be able to be applied as universal ornaments anytime soon, and I can appreciate that's pretty frustrating for players who went ahead and grinded those armor sets out. So give us your thoughts on that down below. A bit of a random bug associated with Solstice, but players have also noticed that if you add Felwinter's Helm to a Solar or Arc subclass wearing the glows on the Solstice armor this year, it actually seems to change the Arc blue into the Stasis blue, and of course Bungie confirmed that we'll see the Stasis glow once we have access to that subclass later on this year. However, with Felwinter's Helm, it appears that you can get a bit of an early version of that, so it's something to check out. In terms of farms for the event this year, for Elemental Final Blows or collecting orbs, some of the higher kill objectives, you can go ahead and farm them in either the Shattered Throne Thrallway or in the Thrallway inside of the Whisper mission. Safe to say these will be useful spots, but before getting carried away with farming locations, honestly for a lot of the event, I would say it's going to be easier to target the match completions we need on those objectives as well, while running good setups to get multiple objectives done, right? If you think about the 2000 Elemental Final Blows, if you went ahead and farmed those at the very beginning, chances are that across all of those PvP matches, Gambit matches, strikes, events, the chances are that you would actually get most of that stuff done while playing through. And that's why in my strategy video I definitely focused on hitting the activities first with the best possible builds to get the other objectives done, and then going back and farming out any additional stuff later. At least theoretically that makes the most sense if you don't want to waste any time. Let us know if you're jumping in and farming Solstice armor this year, or any thoughts that you have about the event so far. Next, we're waiting for new details about Beyond Light, of course, and DMG tipped a couple of weeks back that Beyond Light will again become a focus of conversation. Specifically, they plan to give us more detailed info about how the game is going to evolve, and he'd also stated that TWAB will be a part of that discussion. But we'll have to wait a little while longer before it really starts taking place. But on the subject of currencies, Voidlock said, "I hope Beyond Light doesn't introduce new currencies, as our currencies are already a mess." And I guess it's pretty likely that some new currencies will be introduced, especially with seasonal activities and things like that rolling into the game. But DMG replied that some currencies and items will end up rotating out of the inventory. So, for example, destinations that are going into the Destiny content vault won't need slots in the inventory anymore. And that'll be referring to things like planetary tokens. But it goes on to say that the team is definitely aware of the feedback around the amount of consumables and items in the game, and they don't have details to share on UI changes to currencies. But we'll definitely have a TWAB before launch to go over stuff like that. And he says that he knows there will be additional questions about whether currencies from Destiny Content Vault destinations will be able to be exchanged at a vendor in Beyond Light, but he says they don't have any of that info just yet, and are going to let us know as soon as possible. So it makes sense that current planetary tokens or vendor items, for instance, will cycle out of the game, but clearly players would prefer some kind of trade for those items to make them slightly useful. And back in D1, I believe we saw the ability to turn in crucible marks for reputation when they changed that system. I think that was in the Taken King, so something similar does seem reasonably likely, but the items will be going away in some respect. In case you want to give any input though, DMG did post on Twitter asking for the 5 most important things that players would like to see talked about before Beyond Light. He says we've got a few months before launch, but it's good to hear what's on your mind. And he says that this isn't a promise for this week's TWAB, but this is a discussion for what they'll talk about in the future. I'd definitely like to see how stasis trees are going to be evolved over what we currently have as normal subclass trees. Obviously things like currencies and investment are pretty important. Folks will have questions about the Crucible and follow-on seasons after Beyond Light launches. So really, of course, there are a whole bunch of different subjects there. Give us any thoughts you have down below, but also you can reply on that thread if you're interested. There are lesser spoken about kind of quality and system upgrades that Bungie teased for Beyond Light. So Luke Smith gave the example of the gilding system for titles, where titles may have kind of different rarities and unlock thresholds. And maybe we would see kind of a green title and then a gold title as different rarities, but bundled into some kind of progression system. That's something that Luke Smith teased is kind of on the way for some point in the fall. And so there are additional questions about things like that. But here to some fixes, feedback, and other conversation. Somebody was asking, will the point of the stag's power limit bug be fixed? And DMG responded that it looks like this one is going to be fixed in Beyond Light. So it should be saved just in time. A quick addition for Year 4, but folks were pushing feedback about making Crota's End a dungeon in Year 4 as part of the Destiny Content Vault. And so Cosmos said we can give feedback to the team on asking if they could consider pulling Crota's End out of the vault, but as a dungeon experience. It seems like the bridge would require some reworking, but it's a cool idea to consider. And personally, I think that would be a pretty cool thing. I'd even be happy if they kind of turned the bridge encounter into something like a jumping puzzle where you had to platform up onto the towers really high before you could actually complete certain parts of the encounter. I think it would be a cool thing to do on the bridging creators end because it would kind of call back to some of that cheese that players used to do. But instead, Bungie actually playing with that and turning what was once a cheese into a little bit more of a complex objective, right? Give us your thoughts about stuff like that returning to the game down below. Here though, there was conversation about the Iron Banner, as well as some other things in the game. So, DMG said that some of the top points of feedback from Iron Banner last week include that 3 tokens for a loss feels a bit rough, but also players feel like they're seeing a ton of mercy games, but points out that this has been a thing since before skill-based matchmaking was removed. Once again, feedback on playing solo and running into teams of 6, and it being difficult to tell when an enemy is at a higher power level than you. These are some of the top things that they're currently collecting. So once again, you can add to that if you have any other specific Iron Banner feedback. For today though guys, that is everything that we have to speak about inside of this video. So if you are jumping into the event this year, as always, have fun with it. Give us any thoughts once again down in the comment section, and as always I'll be here to keep you posted with the game, so be sure to get subscribed if you are new to the channel. But if you've enjoyed this video, a rating down below very much helps me out as well guys. But for now, thank you for tuning in as always, and I hope you have an awesome day.